No Panic Zone. I'm Steve Gruber. God bless America. Thank you for being here. It is the Steve Gruber Show, fierce and fearless in pursuit of the truth each and every day. Here are three big things you need to know right now. Number one, a viciously cold winter being predicted by a superstar meteorologist. He's talking about hardcore cold in a year when many EU nations simply are not prepared. Are you? Number two, a battle royale is growing between Elon Musk and Apple, makers of the iPhone. Apple threatening to pull Twitter from its app store and Musk threatening to build his own smartphone. Number three, the China syndrome. It's spreading. Protesters are rising up against the zero-tolerance COVID policies, and the CCP is cracking down on dissent. The fear is growing that the uprisings could continue and spread, and at some point, Xi Jinping decides he has had enough and opens fire with live rounds on his own people. It's not like such things haven't happened before in communist countries run by dictators, and it's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities, and that gives rise to a potential double global crisis. First, Russia flailing. Russia flailing and desperate in its invasion of Ukraine. It only controls 17% of the territory now, the lowest since February. Most people thought it would be over in a few days or a matter of weeks, but back in February when the tanks rolled over the border, it's now on the ropes, is Russia, and Vladimir Putin could resort to using weapons of mass destruction. Some even believe he could use nuclear weapons. So now we face the possibility that China could use lethal force against its own people, potentially, to quell these rebellions against the government from the brutal lockdowns and crackdowns, all related to COVID. And it leaves me wondering where everyone is today. I mean, there have been so many Democrats that have openly supported the Chi-Coms that have to admit right now how wrong they were. Unless, of course, they were just envious of the kind of control they could unleash on people. And Joe Biden, well, he may have been the biggest supporter of China of all, and their biggest ally in America. And he was, frankly, may I put this, too stupid to understand the threat that China represents to America. Listen to this.
China is not our enemy.
I believe then, and I'm even more convinced now, that a rising China is an incredibly positive development for not only China, but the United States and the rest of the world. It is in our self-interest that China continue to prosper. China is a great nation, and we should hope for the continued expansion. We want to see China rise. A rising China can be a significant asset for the region and the world. China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not bad folks, but guess what? They're not they're competition for us. China's not our problem. We can help them with some of their problems. China's not a problem. The idea that China is going to eat our lunch is bizarre. And so, what are we worried about? We talk about China as our competitor. We should be helping.
Do you think, in retrospect, that you were naive about China?
No.
Yeah. No, I wasn't naive about China or any of my other foreign policy issues. By the way, that remember the comment that he was exactly wrong on every major foreign policy decision of his life. Wrong on every single one. Yeah. Gates said that. And now a desperate Xi, who just secured an unprecedented third 5-year term as the leader of the communist country and is not likely or willing to show any weakness, especially to the people in the streets demanding he resign and take the CCP with him. The calls for freedom are growing, but how long will it go mostly unchecked, mostly unchallenged? And the real bottom line, as I just mentioned, is what is Xi willing to do? What is he willing to do to keep the Chinese people in line, the protesters, and at what cost? I mean, that's a serious question. The Chinese have had advanced. I want you to hear this next part because this is really important. Because if the Chinese have it, we have it. And the Chinese have long had advanced facial recognition software in use for years, tied directly to a social credit score. Here is a man who fled the CCP and his personal account of what they have and how they use it. Listen to this.
If you go to China, they're piloting it a few years ago in Shenzhen. So I lived overseas. If you go to Shenzhen, back in 2017, they already had facial recognition cameras there. So if you jaywalked in Shenzhen, they would immediately detect that and send you a notification, and they would deduct money from your what they call WeChat account. They use two main apps, WeChat and Alipay. So you can actually deduct your money directly from your account. This is 4 years ago, so this is not like some sort of conspiracy theory. It's not something that's going to happen 10 years into the future. This happened pre-corona in China. And so this system in China that exists is extremely advanced. They can detect if it's a man or a woman. They can guess your age. They can detect what kind of car model it is, who the manufacturer is. This is a sort of technology that we see in all these dystopian sort of films and whatever. And people keep putting it off and thinking that this is something that's going to happen later in my kid's lifetime or my grandkids. It's already here.
It's already here. And if it's there, you can bet it's here. I mean, do you really think you're anonymous out there when you walk down a city street? Do you? I certainly don't. This gentleman goes on to say, they know where just about everyone is all the time. What they're doing in China is on its way here very soon. No question. Listen to the rest of it.
It's total control. Everything you do or don't do will be calculated. To the point where if they can detect your GPS signal, if you have a phone on you, they can detect who you're hanging out with. Oh, you're hanging out with somebody that said something bad 9 years ago on Weibo. Okay, like a Chinese equivalent to Facebook or something like that, right? Oh, you lose 2 points. Yeah. Oh, you bought Japanese books. You lose 5 points because you don't like Japan. This is what is going to come here because it's already there.
And if you listen to Gruber, you lose 100 points. Because Gruber is the anti-communist. Isn't it remarkable, though, that you have people in this country says, come on, man. Like China's going to eat our lunch. Folks, they're good folks. China's no threat to us. And on and on and on. And that's just from President Joe Biden. But it's been echoed in so many places. And one of the big reasons, if you've missed this memo, the Chinese spend literally hundreds of millions of dollars buying advertising and influence on major media outlets in the corporate media of the United States of America. The Chinese buy their way in, spin their message, tell you what you need to see, and they also play in places like TikTok, of course, which Donald Trump warned us about, and now Democrats are saying, you know, he was right about that. Yeah, Donald Trump was right about TikTok, and a whole host of other things, quite frankly. A whole host of other things. But the Chinese influence on American minds by way of the advertising dollars they pump into these media companies to get the narratives they want, from direct access to young minds through TikTok and other social media platforms, all of it is bad for this country. It perverts the thinking of the young people to think, oh, well, the Chinese are all right. No, they're not. These are people that have enslaved the Uyghurs, do organ harvest on live individuals. At least that's according to the reports, and I have no reason not to believe any of that. And all sorts of human rights abuses. America used to stand up for human rights on this planet. What happened? More on this when we come back, and the apologists in the Democrat Party. Good to see you. It's the Steve Gruber Show.